Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Watty's channel as we continue on with the My Favorite XOX Customs by Random Treasures tournament. Today is December the 7th, so I guess today we're also going to be remembering Pearl Harbor. And so just kind of give you a quick disclaimer. I don't know what's up with the computer right now. I've actually filmed this exact video, round 2, part 2, twice now. Not to mention, I've also filmed 2-3 a few days ago. So on Saturday, I filmed parts 1, 2, and 3 for round 2. Part 2 and 3 didn't transfer over when I moved it over to the external hard drive. So yesterday, I came back down here. I made another video for round 2. I did a brand new complete drawing. And it sucks because I'm gonna have to do a third drawing now for this exact same round 2-2. If I film this video and it's corrupted again and it doesn't save, I'm gonna have to find something. I'm not gonna be able to post the video on back-to-back days. Keep the schedule going. So hopefully this video finally works. So the whole reason I kind of switched, did a new random drawing in the second time I made this video, and why I'm going to do another random drawing this time is because, as I mentioned in what I talked about the second time, is I want a genuine reaction. You know, when you pull the names at random and you see the matches, I don't want to lose one of these guys type of feel. I want the reaction to be, the surprise to be authentic. So what sucks is because I've already talked about so many of these figures so many times, it's become redundant, and I really have no idea what more I can add. I mean, for you guys, you've only probably seen one round of talking about these guys, but for me, it's going to be talking about them for the 4th or 5th time, so it's kind of frustrating. But we're going to dive right into the RAM drawing, and hopefully I can still create a fun video for you guys. Alright, so let me shake this up. Alright, first matchup is going to feature Sika as he does battle against the Barbarian. Alright, next match. It's going to feature Hawk as he does battle against Brother Love. And then we've got Dusty Rhodes as he does battle against Terry Taylor. And finally, we've got Jerry Lawler ooh, that's an interesting one. Jerry Lawler versus Dino Bravo. And that's kind of interesting. I think the Hawk and Brother Love is going to be interesting. I think Jerry Lawler and Dino Bravo is going to be interesting. Because I honestly have no clue who I'm going to choose. Alright, yeah. I'm going to pause the video, guys, and pull the figures off the shelf, and I will be back momentarily. Alright, everybody, so the videos have been pulled, or the figures have been pulled. First matchup we talked about was Sika as he battles the Barbarian. So we will start with, from the Wild Samoans, Sika. And for the love of me, I can never remember if it's Afa or if it's Sika who does who was the manager of the Head Shrinkers. I believe it was Afa, but I could be wrong about that. So, as we know, the Wild Samoans, more modern day guys like Roman Reigns, The Rock, I think Jimmy Snuka married in, Yokozuna. I believe Samoa Joe because he has the same face as Yokozuna. So, but the Inoue family are the most popular family of wrestlers. Have the most kin who are actively professional wrestlers than any family out there, and that is absolutely amazing. And you look at the different wrestling families. Yeah, you could throw the McMahons in there. They're not just owners or whatnot. They do wrestling as well. You could throw out the Ortons. You could throw out the Harts and the Rhodes and the Von Erichs, etc., the Steiners. There are a lot of families that have either siblings wrestling or father, son, grandfather, father, son. I mean, it's amazing. The Inoues, again, I probably think that the number, either by blood or by marriage, that number probably exceeds 20 wrestlers, if I'm not mistaken. Just an absolute tonnage. The actual figure from Ram Treasures now, I keep saying that the Wild Samoans are figures that, when I saw them on the Etsy page, it really didn't do it for me. And because of the higher price tag associated with the tag teams, that really kind of turned me off to purchasing the figures. But I was still at a time frame when I was buying all the figures that came out, and when I was doing my countdown of Ram Treasure figures, I had a video for 15 figures or 14 figures. I had one for 19, one for 25. So I kind of looked at it like, okay, every time I get another 5 figures, I'll do a new video or something. I kind of always put the Wild Samoans near the bottom. And I don't know how I could have done that. Like, how the heck do I put Bob Backlund above the Wild Samoans? And I think it's only because of that B. Brian Blair pose that I kind of like that more than what you get from this. But the Samoans, they do got that bulky figure, that bulk to the figures I enjoy. I absolutely love the head molds with the bushy hair. And, the fighting poses are not bad at all. It's a very playable figure, because it's rubber. It's not like Galoob's where you got to keep the arm steady. You could actually sit there and raise it up if you need to. So, and, it's... I like when both arms are up because you get that both left and right punch. Whereas if you're sitting there with this figure, you basically got to do a punch only on the left side, and it sucks. The rubber is not the best. You can feel the rubber on a Wild Samoan figure and not be impressed. Now, like you feel like something on like a Dino Bravo. The rubber is like super hard, like one of the LJN originals. So that's incredible. Sika is a pretty solid figure. Now, the Barbarian, for the longest time, I said was one of the most elite figures that you're going to find from Ram Treasures. For, I think the first time I did that countdown, I had him at like number 1. And then I had Sid Vicious when I had the 19 figures, and I pushed him back to number 2. Okay, great. And then he just kind of fell off the map. I think I dropped him all the way to like number 10 or something when I had the 25 figures. So coupled with the great new figures that came in, I also kind of felt like, I don't know, maybe color scheme, maybe I like the pose a little bit better, whatnot. Either way, Barbarian, he is, from the very get-go of this tournament, he was a legitimate contender to win this tournament. And you look at guys like the Galoob 2 up of Butch Reed. You've got Barbarian. You've got the more recent Mr. T figure. They all come with this fighting pose. And it's a great one. Don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously I love differentiation in color scheme and in pose and all that stuff. But if you're going to come out with something like an Ivan Putski, for example, okay, I'll take 10 figures that look like this with this pose compared to a differentiation by using a Bruno Sammartino pose or that Ivan Putski type pose that they've got, things like that. This is not bad, but I'll take this pose over this any day, right? The rubber, not the most solid rubber in the world, but it's a little bit harder than what you get for some of the, I guess, mid-section figures that Ram Treasures came out with. So, at the beginning, Ram Treasures was coming out with pretty decent, adequate rubber. Then they started coming out with that soft crap that really ruined the figures, i.e. Bob Backlund. And then, of course, later, figures like I think Abdullah the Butcher is really hard and solid. I think, like I said, Dean Bravo is amazingly stiff, which is fantastic. Jerry Lawler, Dusty Rhodes. I mean, they have nice rubber to the figures. Color tone. I mean, it's flesh tone. I mean, it's a good looking figure nonetheless. So, essentially, am I going to go with the figure that has the bulk, or am I going to go with the figure that has the better pose, in my opinion? Now, obviously, I've always known of Powers of Pain, but being a kid of, I was born mid-'80s, but can I really even classify myself as a kid of the 80s anymore? I mean, my memory of childhood in the 80s was so minuscule. I probably should classify myself as a kid of the 90s at least, because that's where more of the memories come from. And as someone who was a fan of wrestling during the Hasbro era, guys like Warlord, I could always remember because of the mask and staff and everything. I don't have as much memories of Barbarian. Did he go on to a new gimmick or something later on? I don't remember. But I've always remembered watching Barbarian because I've always remember watching him in like matches and Royal Rumbles and stuff. But a lot of stuff could have just been Coliseum home videos and stuff. But I'm going to go with the Barbarian. To me, I think it's the best answer that works for me. And to lose Sika this early, I mean, to make it out of round one was a good run for him, I think. Barbarian, I think, is a bona fide champion. So it's not just about who you think is a better figure for this round, but it's also like who do you think gives you the best opportunity for success. Based on who the figures that are left over, does Sika make it out of round 3? Possibly, based on who he faces, but not guaranteed. Barbarian, he can literally go against the best of the best figures and make it out of round 3 and progress in round 4, possibly round 5. So, Barbarian, he has to move forward for me. It's a no-brainer, I think. So this is one that really sucks. And it's going to be Legion of Doom Animal as he squares off against what was his name? Was it Pritchard? I mean, I always refer to him as Brother Love, but Bruce Pritchard. I keep hearing that name, and I've seen pictures of him. Because as a kid, I never knew his real life name or anything. I always called him Brother Love, right? And I don't know if it's like some kind of interview I watched recently, or some kind of podcast or something, and I heard the name Bruce Pritchard. Again, guys, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's his real name. And that interview that I saw, he looked nothing like this. I mean, obviously, you're talking something that's 30-something years later, but man, that's weird. Pose-wise, I enjoy the Brother Love figure a whole lot more. And reason being, it's a very simple figure. And you would think that the milky suit would be a drawback, but that's Brother Love's outfit. I'm not going to hate on it. It looks solid. And what I say about a figure like this, or like, Bob Backlund. I think if Bob Backlund was in a manager suit and not the wrestler, and you covered him up with pants and jacket like this, you probably never would have noticed the discrepancies to the rubber. And this could be the exact same figure as Bob Backlund, made out of the same rubber. But you look at it and you don't see any of those because all you see is jacket and pants. Either, if you look at it as either a Nikolai Volkov or a Jim Brunzell pose. I mean, Jim Brunzell's got the thumb up and everything, but so this one doesn't. That's why I kind of compare him more to Nikolai, but with the bending of the legs and everything, it's a Jim Brunzell figure. Very solid look to the face, and everything is just well done. And that little rose decal on his lapel looks amazing. Am I exaggerating when I say that the Legion of Doom figures are the cream of the crop of Ram Treasure figures? I don't think so. kind of coupled with the fact that they're some of the most expensive figures from Random Treasures. And if anybody that watches this video, if you guys don't have Legion of Doom, but you plan on picking them up from Random Treasures in the future, do me a favor. Send them a message on Etsy and ask them if you could buy the figure individually. Like, buy Animal first, and then buy Hawk later on. It's free shipping, so it's not going to affect you for a financially through shipping cost to get 2 shipments in. But I'm just curious what she would say. And if she said yes, would she still charge you $180 for one figure painted, or if she would basically give it to you for the 140, 130 with discount that you would get for a normal figure? Animal is one of my absolute favorite characters, and of course from Random Treasures, one of my absolute favorite figures. The reason I kind of hate on the figure now and then is because of the Ken Patera pose. And, he's a muscular man in the arms and everything, but he doesn't exactly have that big muscle back that you see from like Hawk figure or whatnot. And speaking of which, I'm kind of looking at this right now, guys. It was Hawk that I drew, not Animal. Hold on a minute. Did I choose Hawk earlier? Alright, so you know what? We're going to scrap this. We're going to call it Animal because I've already started. And the Hawk name will go back into the hat, and I'll pull Animal paper later on. Sorry. I just kind of was thinking about the paper that I pulled. I looked down and I saw Hawk. I'm like, shoot. I apologize, guys. Shoot, man. Like I said, it's been a long few days refilming these videos over and over again. You can understand the confusion. That's fine. We have a Legion of Doom character, and it'll work. It's gonna work the same way, regardless. I think I have to go with Animal, though. There's just more detail to the Animal figure. With that paint scheme, I think it's amazing. One of the best face paints, if not the best face paint of any of my figures. The Ken Patera pose kills the figure for me, but overall quality I think is fantastic. And even though the rubber's cheap, because he's a big, stronger, bulkier guy than like a Bob Backlund, that the rubber holds a little bit better. Whereas they got Bob Backlund looking very scrawny. So yeah, I think the rubber is going to tear a whole lot easier, and it's already begun tearing. So to be honest, guys, even if I had pulled Hawk, I do think Hawk would have won either way. So either Legion of Doom figure would have won. Brother Love is a fantastic figure. I think he fell out of my top 5 with the acquisition of new figures. But if he's not like a top 10 figure, top 15, I mean, he's definitely top 15, no doubt. But is he a top 10 anymore? Probably not. But still, if you look at over 40 exclusive figures, if you include the Galoob 2-ups, to be a top 15 figure, maybe not elite figure, but a top tier figure, no doubt. Alright, so Animal defeats Brother Love. Next matchup is going to feature Dusty Rhodes as he squares off against Terry Taylor. Dusty. So, one of the shoot interviews I like watching, I talked about were like guys like Greg Valentine and Bad News Brown. They're a couple of my favorites to listen in on. And I don't know if it was just a bad experience meeting them, or if they had issues in the locker room or something, but kind of talking about how Bad News Brown thought that Dusty Rhodes was incredibly racist. And I don't know if that's the case, or if it was just hearsay or whatnot, that me hearing from him, hearsay, as I relate it to you guys. That sucks. If that were true, that's going to affect my opinion of Dusty Rhodes a lot. And I love Dusty Rhodes. Like I said, the top 3 biggest names in wrestling history. Hogan, Flair, Dusty Rhodes, no doubt. And Dusty, I can never remember his manager's name. Like, I always call her Precious, but I know it's not Precious. That's AWA Jimmy Garvin, manager type deal. No, not Jimmy Garvin. Who the heck? Yeah, Jimmy Garvin. Sapphire. I think it's because I always think Precious Stone or something, and so the name Precious and thinking of the manager Precious, that kind of gets at me. Sapphire. So having a black manager, I mean, does that even make sense? I don't know. Or maybe it was gimmick to kind of prove that he's not or something. I don't know. I wasn't in the locker room. I didn't really talk to anybody directly. I'm just hearing these stories through interviews and stuff. But I'm still gonna enjoy Dusty Rhodes for who he was in wrestling and for being part of one of the most dominant wrestling families of all time. So the figure is immaculate. Random Treasures. I hated on a lot of the figures over the last year or so, but I got to give them credit. They came out with one of the most perfect wrestling figures ever created. And yeah, guys, I know, again, Print Fury usually designs the figures, and, Net and Ram Treasures, they do the paint job. When I say Ram Treasures, I am basically throwing both companies into one, grouping into one. So one downside is like that little arm off to the side, kind of like your Abdullah Butcher, where his right arm is kind of in. But it makes sense because he always does like these little small hooks and whatnot. Not the best wrestler. But Dusty Rhodes, he still has like a very similar pose to that of the Series 1 Hogan. And Hogan might be the #1 greatest wrestling action figure ever made. From a playable stance, that is. Some of the designs, like, I didn't really notice before, is like the little birthmark on his side. And again, when I think Dusty Rhodes, that is what I think of. I never remember him wrestling shirtless. But yeah, occasionally he'll be in the match and he'll be sweating or whatever, and he'll take off the singlet, but, I've never noticed any birthmark or anything on him, right? So, the back of the hair, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's sort of like yellowing in the hair, and I don't know if that was intended or whatnot. Because it's like kind of like white hair up front, and then there's like a lot of spotting in the back with yellow. I don't think that's like paint bleed or fade or anything like that. I think that was intentional, but I've been noticing it a lot, making these videos, and it just kind of stands out. The Red Rooster. For the life of me, I can never remember Red Rooster fighting in the 80s. I mean, Terry Taylor himself obviously was probably a solid wrestler in the 80s, but a lot of these guys that were out there in the 80s, I mean, obviously I watched them in the 90s. And I remember Red Rooster in the 90s because I was old enough to actually remember wrestling a lot. And never one of my favorite characters. I was never like a huge fan. Like if he comes into a Royal Rumble or something, like I'm not rooting for him. Or it's like 15 minutes later, why are you still in there? Get out. Berserker, like a bad guy, comes into the ring during Royal Rumble, and I think I remember watching that live on pay-per-view on like 92, I want to say, and I'd be like 7 years old or something. Maybe, if it aired in January. Assuming that Royal Rumble's aired in January, in 92, I would have been a month before my 7th birthday, so, but I still remember that. I'm like, get the Berserker out. Why? Because even though Berserker is a fun guy, you're rooting for the bad guys to get out. But good guys like this, I mean, I could care less. Never really a fan favorite of mine. Guys like Tatanka and who else do I mention all the time? Texas Tornado. Maybe it's just the gimmicks or something. Like, I know I rooted for Tatanka when I was young, but not like, he's more like a flash in the pan type of deal. Someone you might root for in the match, but like, someone you didn't really care about as a wrestler. You know, the guys I gravitated towards were like the big hitters. You know, your Hogan and your Warrior and your Savage, right? That's why those guys will always be my favorites. Later on, it would become guys like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, etc. So, two great figures. Red Rooster, obviously not a top 10 figure in my opinion among Random Treasure exclusives, where Dusty Rhodes most certainly is. Dusty Rhodes is someone I cared about a lot more. Name recognition, he's far superior throughout the world. Much better action figure, greater pose, greater look. I kind of don't want to put this one down because I kind of feel like this one was made for me specifically. But it's a good figure. It's just not the best figure Random Treasures has to offer. And I'm okay putting him down for the tournament and moving Dusty Rhodes over. Kind of interesting thing about Terry Taylor. The first time I made this video, 2-2, Terry Taylor lost to Sid Vicious. Did I have him again? Yep. The second time I made this video, Terry Taylor lost to Dino Bravo. So, I've made this video now 3 times, and every time Terry Taylor's name has been pulled, and every time Terry Taylor lost. So, it just goes to show he's probably not going to be the best figure left over in round 2. Last matchup. And let's see. I'm looking at Barbarian. So the first matchup was Sika versus Barbarian. And Barbarian's name was drawn each of the 3 videos. And he won all 3 times. So, again, heavy hitter. Just shows you the difference. Last matchup is going to feature Dino Bravo as he does battle against Jerry Lawler. We will start with Dino Bravo. The one thing I absolutely love about this figure, first and foremost, is the rubber. Not as solid as like an LJN original of King Kong Bundy, but that rubber is super freaking hard. I think if you hit someone in the head with this, just like a King Kong Bundy, you could probably bash the brains out. With this, I really think you could possibly knock someone out at least. This is a nice, hard, solid rubber. And around the arms, biceps, the chest, stomach area, incredible. Dino Bravo isn't fat. He's just a bigger guy and not even husky. I think because he's a weightlifter and whatnot, and the man obviously has like this huge chest and everything. His stomach is gonna pop out a little bit more. So I love the way that they designed this figure, and of course, if you're going to be bench pressing 600 pounds, the Canadian strongman, you better make sure he has some huge biceps. And so making that part of his body super strong, and when you feel the legs, you could feel it in the rubber that it's just not as strong. But come on, any bodybuilder is going to work legs as much as arms, so keep that in shape. Throughout this figure, I give it a 10 out of 10. Until you hit the stupid Haku arms. Would I still give it a 10 out of 10? Most likely, but you gotta find discrepancies or find things about one figure that you like more about them than the other. And that's the only way to move through a tournament like this. Is he a 10 out of 10? Sure. Is he a recommended figure from Random Treasures? Yeah. If you love Dino Bravo, this would be a solid one, but that Haku pose. Why the Haku pose? There are so many poses, so many options you can use. And that pose might actually eliminate Dino Bravo earlier in this tournament. Whether it's a round 4 elimination, a round 3 elimination, or an elimination right here. I don't know. So obviously this is the first time I'm putting these two together, so I don't have these matches predetermined. And when I tried refilming this same video for the second time, I considered again, going off of the original display. But instead of going off this, I just decided to pull new names and make the video authentic again. So I'm basically going to have to erase that entire thing right there, because obviously I'm doing this video for a third time, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to go through the roof. Jerry Lawler, I've obviously grown up with him a whole lot longer than Dino Bravo. Yeah, Dino Bravo to me was someone I watched earlier in life, but just not anyone I recall correctly. You know, when I say recall correctly, I have to like watch old videos or something to kind of like remember his matches or his Rumble appearances, stuff like that. I don't really remember him from childhood that much. Jerry Lawler, same thing, from as a wrestler in Memphis, Tennessee and whatnot. I mean, you're talking about someone who was so beloved that after his matches, he'd end up on the local news. And for a professional wrestler to be interviewed and to be put on the news, I could understand if it was like ESPN or something like that, right? You know, some kind of sports network. But no, this is just your run-of-the-mill newscast, and the locals absolutely love Jerry Lawler, and obviously signing his contract to move over to WWF. I mean, he was probably in his 40s by then, anyways. But he will always be one of my top 4 all-time favorite commentators in WWF, and you know, these little one-liners and little beefs that he started with people, and he always seemed to get out of it. You know, he fake an injury and have someone else wrestle in his place or something. Always kind of messing with the Hart family, or coming into a Royal Rumble and like hiding underneath the ring, or he'd go into a Rumble and be knocked out within a matter of seconds. You know how much I despise that for any wrestler to be knocked out within like the first 5 minutes. To me, it's just a waste of a roster spot. The last Royal Rumble I ever saw him in, it was Booker T, and it was some random guy that I didn't know who that was, but some kind of TV analyst, you know, commentary, whatever. And I remember those two were kind of knocking on Jerry Lawler once he got out of his suit and had his ring gear on. And it's kind of funny because later on, you know, the bell goes off and you see Booker T starting to strip down. And then towards the end of the match, again, that little random commentary guy who I had no idea who that was, he starts up like, why is this commentary guy who probably has no professional wrestling skills entering the Royal Rumble? Is the WWF really hurting that much to find participants? You would think everyone would want to participate in a Royal Rumble. You know, it's just good fun. But yeah, he went in there and he held his ground, and he wasn't just eliminated in a matter of moments. He was in there for a while. How long was a while? 10 minutes, 15? I don't know, but he had a good run. And I really appreciate that. Jerry Lawler is always one of my most, you know, even as a bad guy, still one of the most interesting characters and one of my favorites. I absolutely love that they did him right, gave him a fantastic fighting pose, and the overall look, his Memphis days, or his, you know, he wore this in WWF as well, or he'd have like a black singlet with like red pants or something. So, you know, you could change the color scheme up, request a different color, but I'm perfectly content with this. It looks just like the young Tennessee, Jerry Lawler. And I didn't bring out his crown this time. That's okay. Not necessary. This is tough. The big bulkiness of Dino Bravo, the hard end of the rubber, and the overall color scheme makes this figure, I think, a little bit superior to Jerry Lawler. Poses will always work first and foremost in my mind. That's the first thing I gravitate. That's the first thing I look for. The finger up sucks. If it was closed fist for punching, that'd be better. I just think if you're a kid or, you know, adults who have like little playtime wrestling, yeah, I think that's what it was called, playtime wrestling. I've seen that channel. Obviously, someone like Jason on Blatant Interference Wrestling has his matches, which are absolutely incredible. this is definitely something I would recommend to have for those type of matches. You can just do so much more with Jerry Lawler. So yeah, I have to choose Jerry Lawler moving forward over Dino Bravo. It's a heartbreaker, but it's the one that works best for me. Alright, so Barbarian defeated Sika. Hawk defeated Brother Love. Dusty Rhodes defeated Terry Taylor. And Jerry Lawler defeated Dino Bravo. So we are currently at about 35.5 minutes. Hopefully this video saves appropriately and I can post it in a few minutes. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.